This is the kind of morning I kind of like to sleep in, you know? Maybe the rain later, maybe the sun won't come out, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, let's bow our heads for a moment of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this new day that thou hast given us. Let us use it wisely and to your glory. We all know that we are put here for a purpose, and many generations cast about wondering what their purpose is, but now we think this generation knows. We have been put here to protect a republic, one that was born with the recognition of you as our Creator and the source of our life, our liberties, all that we know. We thank you for this honor, and we pray that we please you with our efforts. Amen. Let's see. John, would you stand up here for a second and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? You go to. All right, I'll do it. All right. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
We didn't have a booth.
Let's see, we do have a couple of elected officials with us, including our guest speaker. Nancy Abbott, would you stand for a moment?
Hi, I'm Nancy Abbott. Most of you know me. This will probably be the last Saturday that I can be here before the election because it is campaign time and I have to be out knocking on those doors. I hope if you live in the northern part of Medina County, you'll be voting for me in November. And if you have a nice good location to put a sign up, I have some yard signs in the back of the room. And if you do not get the legal terminology or an Emory board from me, I put some out on that table. So please remember Nancy Abbott when you vote on November 8th.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Tell us a little bit more about that. You've been there for us for just about since our beginning. And what can we do for you?
Well, tell your friends and neighbors.
Right.
Here. Tell your friends and neighbors about Nancy Abbott and how she would still makes the best clerk of court there is in the court district, and have them vote. Take signs. I do have one other request. If any of you live on a main road and you have a lot of frontage, I do need places to put big 4x4 signs. So if you have a good location for a 4x4 sign in the northern part of the county and would like to put my sign up, please see me after the meeting because I'd love to bring a sign out to your yard. Other than that, there's yard signs in the back.
Right. And you're all in Medina County, right?
The northern two-thirds.
Northern
I
two-thirds.
do not represent Wadsworth, Lodi, Guilford, anything along the bottom Homer. I don't represent the bottom tier of the county, nor do I represent Sharon Township. Everything else is mine. Okay,
so if we're out there knocking on doors for issue 2 or issue number 3, we should keep you in mind and put in a good word for you. Okay, I also saw County Commissioner Steve Hemley in the audience. Stand for something. You're not running it for
No, but vote for Nancy. I was going to say I just please the punches in the future prospects having a Republican congressman in my district and we're up in Brunswick. I was a young man the last time we had a Republican congressman. So back to the closure. So.
Yeah, we're all going to be sorting out that redistricting thing. Instead of being split east and or north and south, now we're split east and west. And we got people in the same district. Clear down in Cuyahoga County. Oh boy! You know, last time we worked with them, we were trying to help them elect Corrigan against Kucinich. So it's going to be strange. Do we have any other people running for elected office with us today? Okay, we had a request from one to speak. The 2 Saturdays in October, if you know anybody that's running for election this year, invite them to come out here and say hello to us. We'll give them a few minutes to introduce themselves, and they'll get on the web. So that'll be a good thing for them. Do we have any new guests with us this morning? Can I see you raising hands? Very good. Excellent. We're always glad to see new people here. We're a conservative grassroots organization, and it's just about our 3rd anniversary right now. So we started a little bit before the Tea Party and all the 9/12 groups. What we try to do is kind of a formula. We're trying to identify fellow conservatives, get them interested in what we're doing. Once they're involved in, or they participate in one of our events, we try to inform them. We invite them to get involved and become one of our volunteers or one of our donors, so that we're actually making a difference. And once they take that step, then we do everything in our power to help enable them to make a big impact. It's a big tent. We have Republicans, Independents, and Democrats. And we welcome a variety of views. Not all of them we share, but we do practice the First Amendment here. Our only requirement is that it be kept civil. Let's see. Let me flip to a couple of announcements. Dick Hill, I think you had a couple of that you wanted to make. Do you need a microphone or?
No, I can walk still.
Oh, okay.
Flexibility, you know, maybe he can call me about his students.
You may know that the Ohio Congress has repealed the what was called the death tax. It was a tax that we paid on when the folks that died and they needed to settle the property, and it was the tax that was paid on the value of the property when it was sold. Farm Bureau was the spearhead of that for about 10 years. It took them to get that tax repealed, and it destroyed a lot of farms over the years, because when the farm was inherited, then the next generation of farmers had to sell the farm to pay the inheritance tax on it. So that has been gone. That disappears January 1st, 2013. So it not only helps the farm community, it also helps all you individual people that have a house in town where the same situation could happen. The Ohio Livestock Board has completed their writing of the rules for animal care, and that goes into effect September 29th, just in a few days. It covers all animals, all species. If you want to know about any particular one that you're interested in, go on the website, ohiofarmbureau.org, and then work your way to the Livestock Care Board rules, and you can look up any species you wish to look up. And if you see someone or anyone that would be violating those rules, then you can, I don't even know who the heck you turn them into, the sheriff, that's who you turn, the sheriff. The sheriff addresses animal abuse, what do you call those? The SPCA. They do not, all they do is take care of the animals and find a good place for them to be recovered, or whatever the vet would decide had to be done to those animals. The sheriff is the one that takes care of animal abuse. So that goes into effect the 29th. Look it up on any of those rules that you would be interested in.
Editorial comment never ceases to amaze me. They call themselves progressives now. We used to call them liberals, but I guess they don't want to be called that anymore. There is just no aspect of life that they don't want to get into and control, manage other people's lives. And this is one of the things the Farm Bureau has been battling, to try to keep them from essentially deciding whether or not we can eat meat. And if we eat meat, how do the cows have to be taken care of and everything else. So, in fact, in the invitation to this meeting, I sent everybody kind of a shopping list of all the things that the federal government is now trying to regulate or obstruct through executive fiat rather than through legislation. Let's see. The other thing, I don't see Judy Bluter here yet. The Ohioans for Healthcare Freedom are busy working to get issue number 3 passed. Red Ohio is working hard on issue number 2. I have received a shipment of hand cards, door hangers for issue 3, and during this meeting we're expecting to get some more literature. So anybody that wants to deliver literature in your known neighborhood, we have plenty. Those who are interested in walking door to door, talking to your neighbors, give us a call. We'll get you equipped, get give you the guidance you need, and if you need a partner to go with, we'll try to get you a partner as well. Anyway, let me just briefly introduce Congressman Renacci. Many of you noticed last couple weeks ago we had the Tea Party Express down in Avon, and the Cleveland Plain Dealer columnist was there, who is also married to Senator Jared Brown. And most people don't realize it, but at our events, we're very conscious about security. We try to keep it under the covers so it's not very visible. But we're all over the place. And when somebody was pointed out to us as having been disruptive at 2 other people's meetings, we went to eject them. And then somebody else spotted Sharon Brown's wife there and saw that as soon as we ejected that guy, who was a Democratic videographer, she whipped out her camcorder and started filming Josh Mandel's speech. Getting a little opposition research for future campaign, and by making a big stink about that, we ended up getting her terminated from the Cleveland Plain Dealer. Something about a conflict of interest. Well, that just kind of reminded me of what happens in the political arena. We put on a debate a couple years ago with Matt Miller, Paul Schiffer, and Jim Renacci, and the 3 candidates were asked how they stood on fair tax. And almost all the candidates said, oh, they were all for it. Jim Renacci gave the right answer. I'm in favor of it, but I can't commit to it until I read the bill. Yeah, that's right. I mean, it makes good sense. It sounds great, but let's read the bill first. And he gave the right answer. But what the Democrats did after he became the Republican Party choice, they pinned on him the answers that the other 2 gave. That he had adopted it without thinking, and that was going to cause a 26% increase, and et cetera. So that's just some of the fun and games that can go on in politics. I just wanted to share that little anecdote because it just kind of connected a couple dots with me that Congressman Renacci has seen that kind of stuff before. And gave the right answer once, and I don't think many people really recognize that he's the guy that gave the right answer, and he still got smeared. So with that said, I appreciate our frontline troops from Washington, Congressman Renacci, and let me know if I don't pronounce your name right, because I think I've pronounced it 3 different ways.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's interesting what Jim said, because I was at the Wadsworth 912 or Tea Party meeting just a few weeks ago, and some of you probably saw that story, which was Jim Renacci barred the cameras and eliminated the cameras from the room. And clearly it wasn't my meeting. There was a camera person there. I asked who the camera person was because like anyone else, you want to know who's filming you. And I had one of my staff members go and ask the guy, and of course he said he was from some organization, which, by the way, now will it's 100% funded by the Democratic Party, and they're out all the time filming Republican speeches and Republican any comments you make. Well, interesting enough, Jeff Malik, who heads up the Wadsworth Tea Party 912 group, got up and said, look, we do not allow anything to be filmed in our meetings. This is our meeting. If we film, we're going to film, and we're going to present what the congressman has to say, so we do not want the cameras on. Then you saw all the articles that came out after that. Jim Renacci threw the cameraman out, Jim Renacci barred the cameraman, Jim Renacci didn't do anything. Jim Renacci just followed what, when I'm invited, it'd be the same thing here if Jim Woods decided not to allow anyone to film this. Now, we normally have somebody from our organization filming too, and we do that for protection, so that when somebody says you said this, we can go back to our film and say, no, I really didn't say that. But the political world is a strange world. I stood up here a year or so ago in many meetings and many forums, not really realizing how dirty it really will get. So, but that's life, we move on, and just remember what I used to say in the campaign. When you see something, verify it, because half-truths are full lies, and we'll start to see a lot of that coming out. Let's talk a little bit about, what I thought I'd do is go through some slides, and then tell you a few stories and open up for questions. But this is, and by the way, I have a town hall on Wednesday at, it's in Worcester, at the College of Worcester. If you can't make it, if you could tell people about it, because I can tell you the other side, the Democrats, the plain dealer, have already started to advertise. I've seen things on the web come out and show the, you know, the anti-Planned Parenthood, the anti-EPA congressman, you know, that we don't like him and all those things. So those are starting to roll out already, which means, interesting enough, there'll be cameras there from the other side. And I went to a town hall in Canton a couple weeks ago, and there must have been, just because we didn't advertise it enough, but they did, there was about 65 to 70% Planned Parenthood and SEIU, and all the unions were there, and they just wouldn't, you know, they just were over-shouting, screaming. It makes it look like they're in control of the meeting. Actually, there's no meeting going on, because they're just, you know, they're just talking too loud and screaming, and I'm assuming we're going to get some of that in the College of Worcester too. So anyone that, if you can't be there, if you could tell people about it, just so you can even see the other side. It's kind of interesting.
What time is it being held?
It's at 6:30 at the College of Worcester. A lot of these slides we're going to go through at the College of Worcester event too. But the good thing about that event, if you show up, you'll start to see what the other side is saying. And you know, it's an interesting when you hear them. Some of these slides you may have seen before. You got to keep kind of flipping through them. Well, this is the debt number since 1941 until recently. The next slide will show you this is where we're going without the Budget Control Act. Go ahead to the next slide. I always put this slide up if anybody hasn't been here before, just so you see that everything on this side is Social Security, Medicaid. Those are expenses that are continuing to grow and grow and grow, and we don't really control it. When you hear that the Congress is cutting expenditures, we're cutting in the green area. We're cutting in a very small part of the pie. Until we get control of all that other stuff, we will not be able to ever get this budget under control. This slide here, the only reason I bring it up, it shows you where the dollars are coming from along with where they're being spent. So this pie on the right is the exact same pie you just saw. The pie on the left is interesting because it shows you that individual income taxes 27%, corporate tax 5%, Social Security 23%, other miscellaneous 6%, and then we're borrowing 39 cents on the dollar. But what's interesting about this slide, and the reason I put it up, remember, individual income tax, 27%. The reason I say that is because we're going to talk about taxes and what the president's talking about. If you double the tax rate on everybody right now, just double the tax rate on everybody, you still would not be able to cover the borrowing. That kind of gives you an idea. So when we start talking taxes, it's all about class warfare. There's just this issue, taxes, taxes, taxes. If you double the corporate and the individual income tax, you still would be able to cover the borrowing. And I'm sure nobody in this room wants their taxes doubled. So go to the next slide. Things on this is pretty interesting because you're going to hear about this. And I tell everybody that, you know, you hear things in the press and then you really don't get all the details. When you hear that Warren Buffett's tax rate was less than his secretary's, that is probably true. And here's the reason why. Warren Buffett owns a company and collects dividends and interest. And anybody who knows the tax system knows that the tax system only, the maximum tax rate for dividends and interest is 15%. So of course he's going to have a lesser tax rate than his secretary, but they never say it that way. They say Warren Buffett's tax. Remember, you've never heard them say Warren Buffett pays less taxes than his secretary. What you hear them say is Warren Buffett's tax rate is less than his secretary's. So keep that in mind, but here's some other pieces to it. This was in the Wall Street Journal a couple days ago. It's an IRS statistic. Average tax rate for $1 million and above, AGI 23%. Average tax rate for somebody 30 to 50,000, 7.2%. Average tax rate for somebody 100 to 200,000, 12.7. This is coming from the IRS. So when somebody says, do the people making $1 million or up pay more taxes than the average individual? Absolutely they do. You can't take Warren Buffett's situation. So it just shows you how you have to be careful when you hear these things that Warren Buffett's tax rate. Again, the media spins things in their direction. And those are the facts. This comes from the IRS. So the question is, do you think 24% versus 7% is enough taxes? So when you talk about millionaires and billionaires, if the average tax rate is 23.3%, and I just throw that up, it'll be one of the questions for the individuals at College of Worcester. Do you think 23% is more than enough versus 7.2%? But these are just some statistics. Move to the next slide. This is kind of the plan for American job creators. The House has been busy working to grow America's economy by proposing market-free solutions. These are the issues. We have burdensome regulations. Every business I talk to, they say regulation, we're getting over-regulated here, over-regulated here. It's one of the issues. The Small Business Administration reports government regulations cost our economy over $1.75 trillion per year and rising. Regulations are a key issue. Now, the Democrats will say, and again, whether you're Democrat in this room or not, I'm not picking on you, the Democrats down in Washington will say that, oh, you guys just want to eliminate regulations. No. We want to make it, we don't want to eliminate all regulations. We want to eliminate the overburdensome and overreaching regulations so employers can employ people. Solution, require congressional review of cost-benefit analysis of proposed regulations that we have significant impact on the economy. We passed the TRAIN Act yesterday, which is one of those bills. We've passed a significant amount of bills to try and rein in the EPA and do some oversight on what the EPA and some of these over-regulating bodies are doing. And we're going to continue to do that. Next issue, idle trade agreements. Right now we have farmers that are coming in my office. We have 67% of the people that do business in the United States could be doing business with Colombia, Panama, and South Korea. And yet the president has not signed those trade agreements. The problem is Mexico and Canada has, and a number of other countries have. So they are now selling to Colombia, Panama, and South Korea, and we can't. We need to be able to expand our ability to sell to these marketplaces. This is something the president has talked about doing, but those trade agreements have been sitting on his desk for probably 8 to 9 months now. We need to move that forward. We will pass the pending trade agreements and encourage more, boost market access worldwide for American businesses. Again, continuing to buy and grow here and sell to them. Rising energy costs. American energy production has been virtually halted. The average price of gas has doubled, meaning less money in the pockets of families and business owners. That's a problem. We are passing bipartisan legislation, which is kind of interesting, to expand energy exploration production, cut down overburden regulations, and ensure swift utilization of Ohio, Marcellus, and Utica shale formations. Interesting enough, we have probably passed 7 pieces of legislation in the House to allow drilling in the Gulf, to allow oil exploration in areas in the United States. Those things are sitting over in the Senate and haven't been touched, but this is how we're trying to answer all of the above energy problem. It's just not oil, and we can do green energy too, but it's got to be all of the above. Loss of global competitiveness. As a combined state and federal rate, over 39%, we do have a problem. That's our tax rates. When the average rate in other countries is 24%, I tell people, why wouldn't you go somewhere else when you can get a 15% savings just by putting a company in a country outside of here? 15% right out of the gate just by moving your company out of the United States. If you peg that along with all the overburdens and regulations, You know, and I know there are some that say, well, it's China and their currency. Yep, those are all issues. But if you think about it, if you would drop the tax rate down 15% and eliminate some of these regulations that are causing $1.7 trillion, wouldn't it be easier to do business here? Most companies will tell you it's a lot easier to do business anywhere but the United States right now. So we will work to set the top tax rates at globally competitive 25% for job creating business, level the playing field for our competitors. The House has passed 96 bills aimed at creating private sector American jobs, cutting spending, and reducing the size of government. Here are some of the highlights. We'll just flip through these. But these are the, we passed repeal the President's health care bill, repealed health care burdensome 1099 reporting, stopped EPA efforts, circulating court rulings, passed the Energy Tax Prevention Act, eliminated net neutrality restrictions, passed the 2012 GOP budget. By the way, it's almost 900 days since the Senate has passed a budget. That's what we're sent down there to do. We've already passed the budget. They haven't. Passed the bills to reverse moratorium, passed the Jobs and Energy Permitting Act to limit the EPA, passed the bill allowing oversight and review of regulations, passed the bill to expedite construction and operation of Keystone Pipeline, passed the bill to limit the NLRB's interference with job creation. Everybody knows that's the South Carolina. Passed the Train Act to curb overregulation of American industry. These are all things, and I'm just giving you highlights, not all of them.